It says that salams, whatever, yeah? It's called this.
Psalms! Everybody help him! Psalms!
Cool.
Not Islam! The question, Deen, Ratface, and any other Muslim is, where is your evidence of a first century document called the Injil?
Help him. I got a new name for Bob. It's Babble Bob.
Why?
Babble Bob.
Why?
If you know about the Babylonians, that's why. Babble Bob.
Fake black nationalist. Fake social justice warrior. 94% of that Bible there is based upon manuscripts dating from the 9th century. What's your name? Omar. Bob, how you doing? Rat boy. Yeah, me. Do you accept that name? Is that an appropriate term? I didn't want to call you Rat boy. Don't want to call me that. They can call me that. Omar. That's not my intention. I'm not here to insult you, but I'm here to ask about what the testimony of the Quran is about the Injil, and about whether you know what that testimony is. Fair enough. Would you be? I wasn't Rat boy. Would you? Handsome boy. So, like, I was wondering if you'd be willing to go through some verses with me in the Quran and together to discuss what they mean in a non-argumentative way. Yeah? So, if we turn to Surah 2:101 to start off with. I would like it to be, if it is, I'm sorry if that doesn't titivate the senses, but I would like it to be. I'd like all my discussions to be. It's just sadly that the Dawah team won't let me. But I don't think you're part of the Dawah team, so I'm not expecting that kind of behaviour from you. So, in the Quran, let's have a look. So, obviously you accept what the Quran talks about when it talks about the Injil. What do you know about the Injil, the thing that the Quran is talking about? Fair enough. Okay, so we'll do it together then, and we'll come to our own conclusions. And when there came to them a messenger from Allah, confirming what was with them, a party of the people of the book threw away the book of Allah behind their backs, as if it had been something they did not know. Now, what does this verse communicate to you? What do you understand from this verse? Okay. So I'm gonna make a number of statements, and you tell me whether you think I'm being fair or unfair to the text of the Quran. So the Quran is saying, and when there came to them a messenger from Allah, so that I think that's a reference to Muhammad. So it's saying that when Muhammad came, to this group, confirming what was with them, a party of the people of the book threw away the book of Allah behind them. So I understand this verse to say that Muhammad came to a party, a group of either Jews or Christians, and the text doesn't identify which, but it's most likely Jews. And he was confirming what they already possessed, confirming what was with them. A party of the people of the book, meaning Jews, threw away the book of Allah behind their backs as if it had been something they did not know. So they threw the Quran away because they were acting like they didn't know this book, but this book confirmed the book that they had. Now, do you think that that is fair or unfair to the text? In your opinion? Unfair. Why do you think I'm being unfair to the text?
I don't know, man. It's just.
You're Bob the Builder.
I am Bob the Builder. Yeah. So, my question to you is, if he's confirming what was with them, then that means that they possess something that is being confirmed by Muhammad. So, for instance, if you had a letter of approval from the Queen for something, and you didn't believe it, and then a civil servant came to you with another letter confirming the letter that you had, you see what's going on there. It's confirming what you already have. Now, if we look on a bit more, let's look at what else the Quran says. Yeah, in, for instance, Surah 4:47 or 47, not 47. Right. So in 47, this is Allah speaking to me. He says, "O you people of the book." So Allah is speaking, and he's not addressing Muslims. Who's he addressing when he says people of the book? Who's he addressing? Is he addressing Muslims or Christians? Believe in what we have now revealed. So he's saying believe in the Quran, confirming what was already with you. So he's saying believe in the Quran because it confirms what you have already. Yeah? Before we change the face and fame of some of you beyond all recognition and turn them hinderwards or curse them as we curse the Sabbath breakers, for the decisions of Allah must be carried out. So Allah is giving a threat to Alim al-Kitab, Christians and Jews, and he's saying believe the Quran because the Quran confirms the Torah and the Injil that you have with you. Yeah? Okay. Right. Would you think, am I being unfair to the text here, do you think? Or do you think I'm being fair to the text? I'm being fair? Okay. Right. One more, and then I'll make my point that I want to make. So if we turn to Surah 5:68. In Surah 5:68, Allah again is speaking. And the one that he is speaking to are the people of the book, the Jews and the Christians. Say, so he's telling Christians what to say. Or he's telling Muhammad what to say to the Jews and the Christians. Say to Muhammad, O people of the book, ye have no ground to stand upon unless ye stand fast by the law, the gospel, and all the revelation that has come to you from your Lord. It is the revelation that cometh to thee from thy Lord that increaseth in most of them their obstinate rebellion and blasphemy, but sorrow thou not over these people without faith. So Allah is saying to the people of the book, Jews and Christians, believe, stand upon, base yourself upon, build yourself upon the Injil, the Torah, and the Quran. So he's not saying, what he's not saying is that the Injil has been lost or corrupted. What he's not saying is that the Injil has vanished. What he's not saying is you can't trust the Injil of today, as in his day, the 7th century, because he's saying that Allah is saying to the Jews and Christians, stand on the Torah, the Injil, and the Quran. Now, as a Muslim, in the mosque, do you hear that you can't trust the Injil, or do you hear what the Quran is saying? So you hear that you can trust the Injil. So you hear that you can trust the Injil. That's what they teach you in the mosque. That the Injil is not lost.
I haven't been watched for a while, mate.
That's fine, that's fine. What I'm saying to you is that a lot of the arguments that are made by the Dawah team are ahistorical, counterfactual arguments that contradict their own holy book, or that demonstrate that their own holy book contradicts itself. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we have many copies of the New Testament from the 7th century. We know what the Gospel looked like in the 7th century. We know what the Injil looked like in the 7th century. Now, Muslim Dawah team, teach us that gospel, that Injil, has been lost. Now, if it is lost, where is the evidence that it ever existed, and why was Muhammad convinced that it existed in his own day? Why does he talk as if he expects to find the Injil and the Torah amongst the Jews and the Christians? Obviously, Muhammad believed that the Injil and the Torah was there in his own day. And since historically we know what the Torah looked like from looking at manuscripts, and we know what the Injil looked like by looking at manuscripts, and we can compare 7th century manuscripts of the Injil and the Torah to what we have today, then we know that the argument made by the Dawah team that it has been lost completely, that it has been corrupted beyond all recognition, is a lie.
Yes, man.
Counterfactual nonsense. It is counterfactual nonsense, and I would challenge any Muslim who disagrees with me to show me evidence of this mythical Injil from the 1st century. Brother, when Muslims tell you you can't trust the Injil, they're contradicting their own holy book. I am told by Allah, ye have no ground to stand upon unless ye stand fast by the law, which is the Torah, and the gospel. So if I am to obey Allah, I have to stand on the gospel. And then it says also the Quran. Yeah, because that also comes from Allah according to this text. But when I look at the gospel, I find that the gospel contradicts the Quran. Now, do you believe that the Quran can be an error as a Muslim?
No.
It has to be right?
100%.
Okay. Now tell me, friend, does the Quran say that Jesus was crucified?
No, basically what the Quran says, it says someone that looked like Jesus was crucified.
That looked like Jesus was crucified. Now, does the Quran say that there was an Injil in the 1st century?
Yes.
Is that Injil the one that we're reading today?
Okay. Let's get rid of shaitan.
Thank you, bro.
Regarding the Injil, yes, the one that we got today, some parts of it are still true. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Some parts of it are still what the first Injil came down and did, and said, So it's not all changed.
Okay.
But what we're saying is that it's been altered, and even Christians themselves have admitted that there's been parts added, taken away. People have done this. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Can I address that point?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you've cast away Satan now. He shouldn't come back. So the point that would it interest you to know that the way that you have characterized textual criticism of the New Testament is a mischaracterization. Do you know what I mean by mischaracterization?
Yeah.
It means when you present something in a way that is not factual to the evidence.
Sorry, brother.
So I want to ask you this question. You're saying that some parts of it has been corrupted and some parts of it remain true.
Yeah.
How do you identify which parts are true, the true Injil, and which parts are corrupted?
Alright. The parts that are true, 100%. Are we done that already? The parts that are true 100% are the parts where it talks about doing good, forbidding evil, stuff like that. For example, about stories about the prophets and stuff, and also the wisdom inside it about what goes around comes around, do good, it comes back to you. That's all. That's what the real came down. But the parts that have been corrupted.
There's a sister behind you. Just be careful with your elbows.
The parts which have been corrupted, is the parts which have been saying, for example, God has got a son, or God was crucified. That's the parts that was corrupted.
Let me just stress this point. So Deen's argument is based upon an idea that there was an original Injil, an Islamic Injil. So I challenge Deen and I challenge any other Muslim here to provide me any shred of evidence at all that such a document existed. Can you bring forward, Modine, any evidence that this Islamic Injil ever existed? What evidence can you bring forward? He's going full mafia boss now. He's got the cigar out. Full mafia boss. All he needs now is a pimp hat.
Basically, yeah. The brother.
Tony Montana.
Hey, you're Tony.
Go on, Tony. Finish your argument, Tony.
Go on, Tony.
What I'm trying to say to my brother Bob, you see, brother, yeah, is that his argument, I understand, because he's one of the good Christians that enjoins good and forbids evil. There's a difference between Christian who's just Christian by name and does all the, you know, this and that, I don't want to say, and the Christian that prays at night, that enjoins good, forbids evil. These people are mentioned in the Quran. Allah says, subhanahu wa ta'ala, of the people of the book that enjoin good and forbid evil, and he praises these people.
So what's your point, bro?
Okay, so what's my point is, I've seen that you've done a bit of research, but the sources that you're getting your information from, number one, they're not reliable. Number two, you're talking to certain Muslims who themselves are following the corrupt version of Islam, not the version that Jesus came down with, Moses came down, and Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him and his family, came down with. So that's why you have got a bit of confusion. But what I want to tell you is that the Holy Prophet Muhammad always mentioned the Christians and always talked about their love to the Muslims and how they protected Islam and the companions, okay? So the Christians, the real Christians, not the new version which is saying Jesus is God and God died on a cross.
Can I address this point? Right. So I asked Modine, otherwise known as Tony, to bring me forward a single piece, a shred of evidence that there was ever in history something called an Islamic Injil. And notice, ladies and gentlemen, he brought nothing forward at all. Let me finish. Let me finish.
Never let me finish.
Let me finish, bro. You had your chance to answer the question.
No.
No, let me finish. Let me finish.
But I can answer
I will ask you the question again. Calm down. Ladies and gentlemen, I contend to all of you that if you take the time to investigate the claims of the Quran about what happened in the first century, you will find that the Quran is making completely unsubstantiated claims that have no verification in history at all. None, zero, zip, zilch, nada, nothing. Nothing at all. The Quran claims that Jesus brought a book called an Injil, and we have no evidence at all that it ever existed. By contrast, the documents that I have in my hand that are called the New Testament are testified to by archaeological discovery, fragments, manuscripts from the 2nd to the 3rd and beyond centuries, the oldest of which is dated from 90 AD to 140 AD. It's a fragment of the Gospel of John, and you can see it with your own eyes in the museum in Manchester, which I think is called the Betty Ryland Museum. I might have got that name wrong. Christians can also appeal to early writers from the 2nd century, such as Ignatius. It might also be Irenaeus, because I always get those two confused, and Papias, who were writers writing before the year 150, and they quote the New Testament that I have in my hand, demonstrating, ladies and gentlemen, that the New Testament that I have in my hand was in wide circulation and was widely recognized. 1 second. Furthermore, those same Christians argued with other belief systems, such as like Tertullian arguing against Praxeas, or Irenaeus arguing against the Gnostics, or arguing against the Ebionites, which were a 1st century Jewish sect of the Christian movement. One thing you do not find them arguing against is anything that looked like an early Muslim community. And these church fathers quoted the texts of their opposition, one second, and they never quoted anything called an Injil or mentioned anything like a Muslim community. So I will ask brother and brother once again, and any Muslim can chip in because you're going to need to back one another up. What evidence at all can you offer to me today that an Injil of Jesus actually existed apart from an unsubstantiated claim by the Quran? Your evidence.
Alright, repeat the question one more time.
Okay, so the question is, what evidence can be offered by Tony and Rat Boy, that's the name he's commonly known by, what evidence can they bring forward to demonstrate to me the existence of a first century Injil in the same way that I have presented to all of you evidence that this document called the New Testament is dated to the first century and reliable? Please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Prophet Muhammad, Jesus, Moses, Abraham, Jacob, David were all prophets of Allah, and the angel Gabriel, who this man claims to love, will come down with Jesus, will bring down Jesus with his wing, and when Jesus comes back he will say to you, look, this is the real Bible, this is the real Bible in my hand. And he will, yes, Jesus will come with the real Bible, and Imam al-Mahdi, who's Jesus' cousin, will also come back with the real Bible and the real Torah and the real Injil, all of that. So when you see that, that's the time when you're going to say, oh, I'm Bob the Builder, I did a big mistake, and you will cry. Yes, you will cry, Bob the Builder, you will cry like a baby, because you will say, how could I have done such a big sin and made you son of God when you was just a prophet, a Messiah, the son of Mary. Jesus was the son of Mary, just like Adam had no father, Jesus had no father. The book which you are following today, I said I love it, I respect it, I kiss it. If you give me Bible, I kiss it, I read it, I contemplate on it, I learn from it. Yes, I kiss the Bible because it's a holy book. But at the same time, I will not agree with someone saying that God has a son. I will not agree with someone saying God is three. God is one, just like, you see, tattoo number 1. Yeah, God is one, not 3 or 4 or 6 or 7. One God. And Jesus, the Messiah, was born without a father. Mary, peace be upon her, we love her. She had Jesus without having a, and Adam was without a father. God has power to do things. Jesus raised the dead with the power of God. Jesus cured the blind with the power of God. Jesus used to know who was going to die tomorrow. So he would tell someone, his companions, you know what's going to happen? This guy is going to die tomorrow. And I'll tell you a story which is narrated by Imam Ali, Jesus' 10th cousin. He said, so they went to the guy, it was the next day, the guy wasn't dead. So they went to Jesus, they said, Jesus, you said that this guy was going to die tomorrow and he didn't die. So Jesus said, let's go to his house. So they went to his house and they saw the man woke up. They said, what happened to you? He said, nothing, I just woke up. What did you do that night? He said, there was a beggar at my door.
Brother, sorry,
one second, no, let me finish. He said, there was a beggar. No, let me finish. He said, no, let me finish.
Well, you missed the point then, because I'm not hearing an answer to my question.
There was a beggar at the door, and I gave him some charity, some bread, some of my food. So Jesus said, lift up the blanket. So he lifted up the blanket, there was a black poisonous snake. So Jesus said, because you helped the beggar, God gave you long life and that snake didn't bite you. For example,
Modine, one second. Modine, the question that I asked Modine, and I've waited very patiently,
I'm coming to it.
As I'm sure all of you had, then you needed to come quicker, is that where is the evidence that the Quran claims about that there being a first century document called the Injil? Now, I waited for about 5 minutes and Modine presented nothing, nada, zilch, zero. And it's not surprising, ladies and gentlemen, because there is no evidence that the Quran claims about. There is no evidence
No, let me finish.
of a first century Injil. There is no evidence of a document called the Injil. There is no evidence of a first century Muslim community that are all testified about in the Quran. Now, if the Quran is making claims that are false, then it follows the Quran is false.
That's not true.
Muslims believe
That's
that
not
the
true.
Quran cannot be in error.
Yes.
If the Quran testifies and a first century Muslim document called the Injil, we can reasonably expect to find some kind of evidence for their existence. The fact that we find absolutely no evidence of either a community or a document demonstrates that Islam and the claims of the Quran are unsubstantiated by history, are counterfactual, and are in error.
But you've just admitted that the Bible's been changed. How can you follow something that's been
Quran
changed?
is in error.
Makes sense.
By comparison,
The Bible's been
evidence
changed.
for
But-
early Christian claims
Bro.
can be found in documents dated no later than 90 AD, which we call the New Testament, by early church fathers writing as early as the 2nd century, by Roman and Jewish historians who were not even Christian, who verified the central claims of the Christian faith. I ask again, and this is for the last time, Deen, so come to your evidence.
What's the question?
Where is your evidence that there was ever a document called the Injil, or that there was an early Muslim community in the 1st century? Your evidence, not waffle.
Okay. Now. Obviously, Bob the Builder, he thinks
Answer the questions.
The question
mate.
is about what evidence, Modine. Why don't you just accept there's no evidence?
why don't you let me talk, Bob the
Right,
Builder?
so bring forward your evidence.
Okay.
Bring forward your
Alright,
evidence.
Billy, what's your name? Bob, yeah, Billy? Don't get involved, mate. Yeah, it's between me and him.
Don't give him fuel to distract. Answer the question.
Alright.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to hear an answer to my question? Do you? Right. The question, brother, and any Muslim here, where is your evidence of a 1st century document called the Injil? Evidence.
It says here, all the same, you might find a significant portion of the true Injil in the 4 Gospels of the present New Testament recorded as the sayings of Jesus.
Ah!
Right. So,
What did it say?
Come on, bro.
shout it out. Can I shout it?
Come on, brother. Come on,
Can
brother.
I shout it so everyone can hear it?
He's a real
Which
bad
bit am I
man, yeah.
reading? And what website am I reading from, please? Which parts? So, the evidence, ladies and gentlemen, finally.
I don't know my part.
I asked for evidence.
No,
One
no,
second.
no, wait,
Let me
wait a
just
minute.
read the evidence.
You do your part and I'm doing my part.
The evidence that has been presented, ladies and gentlemen, to the question about evidence of a 1st century Islamic document called the Injil is this, from a website called About Islam. Okay, this is the evidence and you decide whether it's good
He's never
evidence.
said, you never.
It is this. All the same, we may find a significant portion of the true Injil in the 4 Gospels of the New Testament
Exactly. That's what-
recorded
exactly.
by the sayings of Jesus.
Exactly, yes.
That is not
No, but
evidence.
I'm just saying.
That is just another claim.
You've just claimed that the Bible's been changed.
That is
You've
not
just claimed,
evidence.
One
That
second,
is just
one second,
another
one second.
claim.
To all my Christian brothers,
Where
out there,
is your
One second,
evidence?
One second. Right, Bob the Builder, I feel sorry for him because he's emotional. And when someone's emotional, you have to look after his feelings and don't hurt his feelings. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to hurt your feelings because I know you're emotional. But listen.
Come on,
You've
Tony.
said that the Bible has been changed.
Where's your evidence?
No, listen, one second.
About the Injil.
I know, the Injil.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've asked the question 3 times. Do you want to hear an answer?
Okay.
The question, Deen, Ratface, and any other Muslim is, where is your evidence of a 1st century document called the Injil?
Let me talk.
Christians can quote 1st century writers, 2nd century writers. We can appeal to 1st century documents. We have archaeological evidence dated to the early 2nd century. Where is your evidence of an Injil? Please, for the last time.
Okay. Bob the Builder is asking me for evidence of the original Bible, right?
The original Injil.
The original Bible that Jesus came down with. Injil. Okay. Now, the Islamic view of the Christian Bible, which Christians hold to be revelations from God, okay, is based on their belief that the Quran says that parts of the Bible are revelations from Allah, God, but believe that some of it has been distorted or corrupted, tahrif in Arabic, and that a lot of text has been added which was not part of the revelation. Muslims believe the Quran, which Muslims hold to be revelation to the Islamic Prophet Muhammad ﷺ through the angel Gabriel, was given as a remedy, and that it identifies 3 sets of books from the Bible as genuinely divine revelations to given to the trusted messenger. The Torah given to Moses. There's
You don't need a lesson, bro.
All right, one
Where's
sec.
your
No.
evidence?
Bob, you chatted for 20 minutes here. Give me 2 minutes.
Evidence.
Why can't you give me 2 minutes?
Just come to your
No,
evidence.
let me come in with you.
All you're doing is bringing more claims.
All right, let me-
I don't want claims. I want evidence.
Hey, my brother, is that fair? He's not giving me 2 minutes. Is that fair? He talks 20 minutes.
minute,
And I'm
okay.
not, okay, 1 minute.
Evidence,
Come on, bro.
evidence.
Okay, 1 second. What we believe that came down to Jesus, which is the Moses, which is the Torah. The peace elements. What's that called? The PS
Psalms.
Alright, Psalm.
He said it. I didn't. He said Islam.
I don't know. That's what it says, bro.
He said Islam.
No, bro. I don't know how to.
Saudi Arabia, you'd be dead.
You'd be dead.
They are grateful you're living in the UK.
Alright, it says that salams, whatever, yeah? It's called this.
Psalms. Everybody help him. Psalms.
Cool.
Not Islam. Ladies and gentlemen, I have asked Modine.
Let me finish.
Right, give me your evidence, Modine.
You're gonna need to get.
Right, give me your evidence quickly.
No, see how Bob is? He's sly. Oh, quickly.
Because all
You
you're
know
doing
that.
is bringing
You might as
forward
well
another
sell
claim.
electricity for Empower or someone, or British Gas, because you're really
Your
good at that,
claim,
aren't
your
you?
claim.
Let me finish.
Your evidence.
So the Zabur, which is the Salams, whatever you call it, given to David. Alright, given to David, yeah, Dawood, yeah, and the Injil Gospel given to Isa, Jesus. They believe that the Quran, they believe that the Quran, these books, and the Suhuf Ibrahim, the scrolls of Abraham, which they believe is currently lost, okay, together constitute Islamic scripture. Belief that this scripture is divinely inspired is one of the Islam's fundamental tenets. And traditional Muslim teaching stresses those passages in the Quran which affirm the Christian gospel and the Hebrew Torah, yeah, as valid revelations of God and paths to salvation. Early Muslims have historically held multiple perspectives in regard to the Bible. Let me finish.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
let me finish.
have you heard any evidence of a 1st century Injil? Have you heard?
Let me finish.
Have you heard, ladies and gentlemen? Any evidence? I don't want to kiss you, Modine.
Bob, listen.
Tony. Ladies and gentlemen,
let me finish. Come on,
Modine has made a claim. He said, when I asked him for evidence, I will ask you, did you actually hear any evidence? Did you hear any evidence? Did you hear any evidence?
Okay.
Did you hear any evidence? I heard no evidence. Nothing. Nada. Zilch. Zippo. Zero. Not a thing. Which means that the Quran is in contradiction to all the evidence of history. No, my Deen, we're not kissing.
No,
I don't swing that way. I know, ladies and gentlemen, that the Dawa team like to touch me. I accept that I am an attractive man, but I don't swing that way. The Dawa team have to keep their hands to
I ain't Dawa
themselves.
team, I'm independent.
For the Shia.
Alright, listen. Let me
Now, hold on. You said that the Isa, that the Torah and the Injil had been changed. Let's see if the Quran agrees with that claim. As every Muslim worth their prayer mat will be able to tell you, the Torah, the Injil are the word of Allah. And it says in the Quran, the word of the Lord doth find its fulfillment in truth and in justice. None can change his words. None. So when it says none, does it mean none or does it mean some? None means none. Not now, not in the 7th century, not in the 1st century. None. Which means the Quran says the Injil and the Torah cannot be changed.
You've just said it got changed. In your last video, you said it got changed, and Christian believes it got changed.
Let's talk about that.
You said that.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about
Let's
that.
talk about
that, Bob. Let's do this.
talk about that. I am not frightened to talk about that.
Let's go, champ. Let's go,
I'm
champ.
going to.
Let's go, champ.
Relax, Tony. Relax.
Let's go, champ.
Who's getting
Let's go,
emotional
champ.
now?
Let's talk about that. Let's go. Let's go, champ.
Who's emotional now?
Let's go, champ.
Are you ready?
Let's go, champ.
Are you ready?
Let's go, champ.
Are you ready? So,
Bob's gonna admit
ladies and
that the Bible
gentlemen.
got changed. Let's go. Let's go, champ.
are you ready? As a further evidence that the Quran is wrong,
No, I don't answer the
we
question.
will now talk about the textual criticism of my own book. A book I believe in. A book that I stand here in all truth telling you is reliable and can be trusted. However, we Christians do not make the same claims about our New Testament that Muslims make about their Quran, which we have seen is in error historically, and no Muslim was able to bring forth any evidence.
No.
Let's
You're
look at.
diverting the topic.
I'm not.
You're here to
One, John.
You're here to admit that you said the Bible got changed.
Let's
and
talk
you're
about
following
that.
a changed Bible,
Let's talk
which
about
has been
that.
added by man
Let's
and
talk
taken
about
away by
that.
man.
So,
this is what you're here to do.
the characterization Deen has made is that the Bible has changed, and what he is trying to imply by this characterization is that it is untrustworthy. However, the reality is, when you do an analysis of the textual variants in the early manuscripts of the New Testament, we can identify those variants, and they do not affect any central doctrine of the Christian faith. And ladies and gentlemen, that is not my conclusion. That is the conclusion of scholars like Bart Ehrman, Dr. Bart Ehrman, Dr. James White, Dr. David Wood, Dr. Daniel Wallace. This is what Bart Ehrman said when he was asked by his publisher about the textual variants of the New Testament. The question, why do you believe these core tenets of Christian orthodoxy to be in jeopardy based on the scribal errors you discovered? Answer by Dr. Bart Ehrman. Essential Christian beliefs are not, did you hear that? Are not, if you're a Christian, repeat it with me, are not, again, are not affected by the textual variants.
He said that in 2007 and he's changed his view since then. 94% of that Bible there is based upon manuscripts dating from the 9th century. You said that John 9-18 was dates from the 1st century. I'll tell you now, I'll make a promise to you that if you can prove that that came from the 1st century, I will give you, I promise you, I will give from the 1st century. If you can find any academic proof that that came from the first century, I will give you proof that I will give you 50 quid to any one of your.
Ladies and gentlemen. No, ladies and gentlemen. The story is about the adulterous woman that's found in the Gospel of John. Now, the brother is right. He asks a question and he walks away. He runs away from the answer. Come back. Right. So, unlike Muslims and the Dawah team here, I'm talking to you, an atheist, and you're a Muslim, and anyone else who's interested. Unlike Muslims, I am not here to make an unsubstantiated claim. In terms of hard evidence, there is no manuscript that I can provide that shows that the story of the adulterous woman is dated to the 1st century. However, I can give the opinion of the leading textual scholar of our age, one Dr. Bruce Metzger, who believes that the story of the adulterous woman was one of those stories known in the church but never written down, and was later written down by the church because it survived as an oral tradition. And indeed, ladies and gentlemen, the evidence would support that, because this story appears independently in different manuscripts, written in different places at different times in different Gospels, meaning that the church was aware of the story but had no agreement about writing it into the text. That is the opinion of Dr. Bruce Metzger. I'll leave it to you to decide whether you owe me 50 quid or not.
No, listen, you can actually provide chapter and verse where that's said, because as far as I'm aware, the Bart Ehrman that you mentioned, he actually reckons, excuse me, just a second, how many, according to the Bart Ehrman that this gentleman mentions, he's now retired, but he was the emeritus professor at Chapeltown, okay, in America, right? I can't remember which university it was. Excuse me. How many documents date from the 1st century relating to the New Testament?
1 second.
How many? You have a guess. How many documents from that Bible do you reckon date?
No, talk to me. Are you arguing with me?
How many do you reckon?
Oh, he doesn't want to talk to him. So I'll return to my conversation.
None.
Right, what's the question? I didn't hear it because you weren't talking to me.
How many dated from the 1st century? None.
No, I'd agree with that, totally.
Well,
have I made that claim?
I believe that you
said
that John 19 may have come from the 1st century.
He's not a good listener, is he?
I was a very good listener.
He's not a good listener because I claimed that it was an oral tradition. That's what I claimed. And that's the opinion of Dr. Bruce Metzger. And furthermore, ladies and gentlemen, my opinion is not based on the scholarship of just Bart Ehrman. It is also the scholarship of Dr. Bruce Metzger, Dr. James White, Daniel Wallace. There are numerous scholars that argue the position that I am arguing, and these names are some of the biggest names in the industry.
Can you please consider the oral tradition that he's talking about? The disciples, please. The disciples were Aramaic speakers. They were low class day workers, day labourers.
We don't need to judge our religion by your failed isnads.
Excuse me.
That's an emotional argument. Our religion by your failed isnads. Your failed isnad logic is rubbish.
I asked you a question. Why are you being emotional?
I'm not. The argument is made
I asked you a question.
that because we don't have a biography of Mark, therefore we cannot trust Mark. But the fact is, ladies and gentlemen, in the isnads themselves, particularly the isnad of the Quran, there are examples of liars. And according to isnad science, liars can't be trusted. Aisha lied to the Prophet, and yet she is the source of multiple hadiths.
Yeah, but
So their own
Shia don't
hadith,
take from them.
so their own hadith science fails, and they're trying to judge
Not
our
all Muslims
religion.
take from her. Not all Muslims take from her.
Shias don't, I accept that.
This gentleman is claiming that his Bible is pretty sound. Most of the manuscripts date from the 9th century, which is great if you want to know what people were thinking and believing in 890. But if you want to find out what people were thinking and feeling in the 1st century, it's impossible.
I'll correct him. I will correct him.
Listen,
ladies and
just a second,
gentlemen,
please let me
ladies
finish.
and gentlemen, the argument is being made that we don't have manuscripts from the 1st century, and so therefore we cannot know what they believed. This is rubbish. And the reason why it is rubbish, ladies and gentlemen, is because in the 1st century, until the invention of the printing press, all knowledge was oral, transmitted. All knowledge was oral. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the central claim of the we don't need your failed hadith science.
Yeah, that's right.
We don't
300
need your
years
failed
later,
hadith science.
It's actually written by somebody in Greek.
You interrupted.
Yeah, 300
You
years later
interrupted.
in Greek.
Let me ask
So
this brother a
oral
question.
tradition
Brother, are you
is
going to
actually-
talk to me?
Well, you were
Let me
talking
ask
to
you
me.
this question. Do you agree with me that the claims?
not.
Do you agree with me that the claims of Christ's crucifixion and resurrection were being made before any gospel was written?
Ask me this.
I know I don't want you to tell me what question to ask you. I want you to answer the question I ask you. The question I ask you is, does the claim that Christ was crucified, Christ was resurrected, and that Christ will return in judgment predate the gospel? Answer the question.
Excuse me. There is evidence. Just a second. There is evidence that there was a Jesus and that he appeared before Pilate.
That's not my question.
No, excuse me, I'm getting to it. The thing is that I believe that there is evidence that there is a crucifixion. As for any evidence of the resurrection,
That's not my question. I'll ask you my question again, because as I said earlier, our atheist friend is a poor listener. I asked the question, is there evidence that the claims of Christ's crucifixion, resurrection and ascension predate the Gospels themselves? That's the question.
what is actually pre-mentioned in the Old Testament.
Do you understand the question?
Say it again.
Okay, so I'll ask the question for the third time. To the atheist.
Yeah.
Is there evidence that the claim of Christ's crucifixion, resurrection and ascension predate the gospel?
There is historical records that there might have been a Jesus. There is historical records that historical references.
Yes or no, but what's the point?
Yeah, but not the resurrection.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, he doesn't understand the question.
Right. What
So I
are you
will.
saying?
I will have to answer the question for him. So the question that I asked was: is there evidence of the claims of the resurrection, crucifixion, ascension of our Lord existent prior to the Gospels? Well, the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, is that when you read the New Testament letters, they were written before the Gospels. Before. And in 1 Corinthians 15, we read as follows. Now, this is Paul writing.
Copies of the letters to Corinthians.
I make known to you, brethren,
no records
the gospel which I preach to you.
No records at all.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, he didn't want to, he couldn't answer the question, and now he doesn't want to listen to the answer. And the reason for that is because it undermines his disbelief.
No,
And he wants to hold on to his
there are
disbelief.
no copies
So,
of the letters
now
to Corinthians in the
I
first
make
century.
known to you, brethren, the gospel
There's no
which I
text
preach
saying
to you.
that the first
Notice,
century.
he's saying, I preach to you something before he writes the letter about
First
it,
copy
which means
in 200
that the preaching
years after
itself,
the event.
that the preaching itself predates the letter. Now listen, the gospel which I preach to you,
Around
which
200
also you received,
200 AD.
in which also you
That's
stand,
what he's reading now.
by which also you are
So he's
saved,
quoting a document which is
if you hold
anachronistic.
fast the words which I preached to you, unless you believed in vain. For I delivered to you, listen to the next bit, what I also received. So before he preached it, before he wrote about it, someone else told him. Someone else preached it to him. What I also received, that Christ down for our sins according to the scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he was raised on the third day according to the scriptures, and that he appeared to Cephas, then to the 12. After that he appeared to more than 500 brethren at one time, most of whom remain until now, but some have fallen asleep. Then he appeared to James, then to all the apostles, and last of all, as one untimely born, he appeared also to me. Paul is quoting an early Christian creed, which predates the letter.
And there's no original. There's no original.
Therefore, we can see
Yeah, 200
that
years
the
later.
belief in the
200 years
crucifixion of the resurrection, the crucifixion and resurrection, predates the documents. And scholars are unanimously in agreement
No, they're not.
that these documents were written, completed by 90 AD.
No, listen, excuse me, can I just say,
I got a new name for Bob. It's Bubble Bob.
Why?
Bubble Bob.
Why?
If you know about the
Slave
Babylonians,
trader
that's why.
Rajiv.
Bubble Bob.
Fake black nationalist. Fake social justice warrior.
listen,
Talks about the
they
plight
actually
of Muslims,
reckon-
ignores the Islamic
Corinthians
slave
2
trade in the
is
Sudan
actually
of
two
black
letters
Christians
spliced together.
being enslaved by Arab Muslims,
Chapters
and then
10
comes here
and
talking about
13
Islamophobia.
don't relate
What a
to
joke.
chapters 1
Oh,
to
by
10.
the way,
Bob
he
has
also
the longest
advertises
running man
pornography
challenge of
channels
all
on his
time.
hat.
He has the longest running man challenge of all
Pretending
time.
to be a social justice warrior, he advertises porn channels that deprive women and is an ally of the Dawah team.
Of the Gospel Gang. This is
Bubble
exactly
Bob.
what the Gospel Gang do.
I don't need a gang, my name's Bob.
Yeah.
Bubble Bob.
No, you were talking about the 2 Corinthians, okay? And it's a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. Originally, many of the copies may have been made in Aramaic, and then they transferred into the highest level Greek, very high scholarly Greek. Right, over a period of
point?
Well, my point is that it may well be we have no original sources of any of the New Testament
So,
dating from the first text.
so his argument is, oh well, you can't
Has anybody
believe
got
these
a credit
claims.
card or something like a credit card?
Ladies and gentlemen, the atheist is arguing, and these arguments are borrowed by the Dawah team because the Dawah team have no good Quranic arguments to make. So they have to borrow the arguments of atheists. Now, the atheist is making the claim that we don't have the original copies. I totally agree. I do not need to base my belief in the crucifixion and resurrection of Christ on any New Testament document. I can base it squarely and entirely on the teachings of the church, which predates the New Testament document, and to which the New Testament says is the container of truth. I'll give you the verse shortly. I can demonstrate the early belief in the crucifixion and resurrection of Christ by using the church fathers.
Yeah,
Who
so you
quote?
use another part
Who
of the New
quote?
Testament to
Who
prove his
quote?
point.
Who
Special
quote?
reading. Yeah, I know.
Who quote?
Reasoning. Thank you.
Who
Circular
quote?
reasoning.
Who quote the New Testament as a separate source for their own beliefs, meaning there are two independent sources
They're not independent.
testifying to the same thing.
Who are the church fathers, first of all? Just explain that. And
Did Aisha lie to Muhammad?
Hold it, can I just make a point? Can I just
Did
make-
Aisha
Hang on,
lie
please,
to
just
Muhammad?
make a point.
Deflection.
Stick to the point.
We don't need silly
Okay,
hadith chains.
excuse me, can I
They
just-
don't work.
How many
The hadith chains have
One of
failed.
your tactics is
Aisha
deflection.
lied to Muhammad about his breath. She lied to his face. And according to the Isnad science of hadith, you can't trust any hadith from a liar. And Sunni Muslims base huge numbers of hadith on the testimony of Aisha, who is clearly seen lying to Muhammad. Furthermore, Allah in the Quran lies to humanity by saying
in that gospel.
Muhammad, Allah in the Quran lies to humanity by deceiving them about the crucifixion of Christ, making them believe something that's not true. That means that Allah is a liar. And according to hadith science, you can't trust a liar. So you can't trust Aisha, you can't trust Allah, so you can't trust the Quran, and you can't trust the hadith.
Back to what the question was.
You have the point.
Okay.
You have the last point.
Excuse me. There are 5,500 fragments. Please. There are 5,500 fragments, according to Dan Wallace, relating to the New Testament.
Don't get overexcited.
The thing is that they actually reckon that, not one of them agree with any of the others.
Let's just deal with that point.
Excuse me,
No,
please.
you're mischaracterising the evidence. Because the evidence is that those 5,000 manuscripts, 98% of all the textual variants are just spelling mistakes. It's like spelling John, G-O-N, G-O-N-N, G-O-H-N, or G-O-N-E. It doesn't make a difference. They're not even translatable.
You said this is my time. I give you that. But what I'd actually say is that the actual base documents, the first copies, are lost. Yeah, excuse me.
So what? So what?
Excuse me.
It does not disprove the central claim of the Christian faith, because the central claim of the Christian faith
Scholars have given up
predates the
trying
documents.
to find an original Bible.
The Christians
because
were
they're
preaching the
all
crucifixion and resurrection of Christ
what did Jesus
before
say
any
about
gospel
the
was
crucifixion?
written,
Jesus
before
said,
any letter was
lost. And
written.
the incomplete
So what?
Bible.
The argument doesn't make sense.
that there's
It
incomplete.
assumes that our belief is based on a text.
there's
It doesn't. The text is produced by the belief, not the belief by the text. Your argument does not stand logically.
I'm sorry, but excuse me.
The one of
Excuse
Jonah.
me. Excuse me.
Jonah
Will you
spent
stop,
3 days or
please?
3
Please
nights in
stop.
bed.
Yeah, okay.
And he was
The
alive.
sign of Jonah, you
was
clown, was that
Jesus
Jonah was
alive.
dead
He wasn't
in the
dead.
whale.
Jesus Christ was alive.
Excuse me.
He spent
Jonah
3
was
days
dead in the whale, and
He was
so
alive.
was Christ in the
haven't
tomb.
got the full
That is the
information
sign of
on the
Jonah.
Trinity.
Jesus Christ said,
And if you read the
full
scriptures
humanity of
carefully,
Christ,
he doesn't say
The atoning
that he will
sacrifice
rise
of Christ.
after 3 days. He says he will rise on the third day. Read your scriptures more carefully.
you don't
Your
understand the
arguments by Zechariah are rubbish.
The one of
Abdidat was
Jonah
not
was
a
alive. He
scholar.
wasn't dead.
It's
Read
based
the-
from
Jonah
something
was alive in the prayer of
900
Jonah
years
clearly.
afterwards.
Read the prayer of Jonah
years
clearly.
afterwards.
He was dead in the
Incomplete.
tomb. He
Jonah
was dead.
Cobbled together.
He was dead.
Jonah died.
Incomplete.
Jonah, was he dead?
Unfortunately, I have to go.
Jonah.
Ladies and gentlemen,
You don't know.
I greet you in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. We have seen that Muslims can produce no evidence of a first century document called the Injil. We have seen that they can produce no evidence of an early Muslim community. And that by contrast, Christian beliefs
Are relying on
well
documents
attested
that are 900
by the
years
historical
later.
inquiry
It's nonsense.
based upon
Don't buy
early church fathers, the
900
oral
years
tradition of the
later.
church community, the writings of New Testament documents
don't exist.
testified by early manuscripts. What we see
There are no
is that
early
the
manuscripts.
arguments of atheists like this brother are based upon a misunderstanding of the Christian faith. which assumes that the beliefs arise from the text rather than the text being produced from the beliefs. If you read the Gospel of Luke carefully, it clearly identifies that the belief existed before the Gospel was written. That means, ladies and gentlemen, my belief is not dependent upon finding a first century document. But Ehrman's position on the text is that they do not contradict Christian doctrine.
He said that in 2007.
Furthermore,
he's changed that.
But Ehrman's position on the text is not that it is lost. His argument, his argument is that we cannot know that it is preserved. That is something different. You are not listening to him carefully. Furthermore, people like this brother and people like this brother have to demonstrate to me that the variant manuscript readings that we have cannot possibly contain the original, and they cannot do that. It is something that is unprovable, which means that they are making an argument counterfactually. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. God bless.
The Bible is unprovable.
You weren't listening. What a surprise!
The only book that can be reproduced in 30 seconds is the Holy Quran. Okay, that's the only book that can be reproduced as the original text, as it was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad is the Quran. The Bible cannot be reproduced. The Torah cannot be reproduced. Only the Quran in 30 seconds. Okay.